Welcome to RC Video Magazine Volume 15. In this issue, we'll take you to the first annual Schneider Cup reenactment at Lake Havasu, Arizona. We're going to be looking at Mark Frankel's magnificent Learjet 35. We're then going to Arizona and the 1/8 scale Air Force annual fly-in. We have a report on the World Helicopter Championships in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And finally, we have a report on flying in cold weather. The Schneider Trophy was for 2 momentous decades the holy grail of air racing. It was competed for by airplanes that operated from the sea. Conceived by its patron, wealthy French arms manufacturer Jacques Schneider in 1912, not even 10 years after the Wright brothers first flew at Kitty Hawk, it was intended to accelerate the development of air commerce. No one then could conceive of airports such as O'Hare, LAX, or Narita, and since most large cities are on bays, harbors, or rivers with ready-made takeoff and landing areas, Schneider logically assumed the future would be dominated by flying boats. He insisted the speed race be only part of the contest, in addition to evaluations of water maneuverability and seaworthiness. But the airplanes his contest spawned did not turn out the way he envisioned at all. There were 12 contests between 1913 and 1931. They were open to all nations and were intended to continue indefinitely until a single nation won 3 consecutive times. One contest was annulled. On another occasion, a contest was canceled. World War I interrupted the series for 4 years. The contests were held annually until 1927, when they became biannual. Nevertheless, victory in the Schneider Trophy races became singular marks of international prestige. Efforts to win demanded absolute commitment and inevitably strained national, technical, and political resources. More than 100 different airplanes were conceived by several nations specifically to win the Schneider Trophy. They represented the frontier of aviation technology, and winning pilots and designers became national heroes. In less than 20 years, winning lap speeds rose from 45 miles per hour to 340 miles per hour in 1931, the year a Schneider seaplane bested 400 miles per hour flat out, and a Schneider racer, the formidable Italian MC-72, still holds the world's absolute speed record for prop-powered seaplanes to this day. 440 miles per hour set in 1934, almost 60 years ago. Nations eventually used the Schneider Trophy as a crucible to develop airplanes not of peace but of war, contrary to the desires of Jacques Schneider. Many of these planes became beds for the best in engines, from 100 horsepower to more than 2,600 horsepower, through vast improvements in metals, fuels, superchargers. In this regard, the Schneider Trophy shoved the technical frontier further in a shorter time than any other event in aviation history. On 3 occasions, different nations, Italy, America, and Great Britain, had secured 2 wins each, needing only a third to capture the prize permanently. In 1931, Great Britain earned its 3rd consecutive victory with its famous Supermarine racer, and the great International Olympic of the Air came to a close. The magnificent silver trophy resides today in England, an object of intense national pride.
In this program will be presented replicas of very early racers. These racers flew off the water. They were called Schneider Cup racers. And today we're presenting here in Lake Havasu the world's first giant-scale Schneider Cup reenactment. Many, many hours of modelers' time, engineering, and ingenuity have gone into creating these beautiful replicas. They must fly scale speeds, they must have scale outlines, and they must fly in realistic manners. I think that you'll enjoy this tape, and we welcome you to the world's first Schneider Cup reenactment.
After static judging was completed Thursday morning, aircraft were transported to the beach area set up for speed trials. Frank Kelly and his timing team used a computer and radio communications to determine each model's true speed. The object is to fly as close to the target speed as possible. This target speed was determined by the prototype speed divided by the scale of the aircraft. For example, in 1925, a Curtiss R3C2 flew at 233.6 miles per hour. This one-third scale model would have to fly one-third of that speed. Ken Merrill flew the Curtiss at 76.3 miles per hour, missing his target speed by less than 2%. Each pilot was allowed 3 timed speed runs. The closest speed to the target miles per hour was entered and counted for one-third of the total score. Kenny Bunt, flying a 1931 Supermarine, hit his target speed of 84.3 miles per hour exactly. Several aircraft did not survive this part of the competition. The final segment of competition is flight realism. This is done around a pylon course. The course is made up of 3 pylons arranged in a triangle. Aircraft taxi out to the designated takeoff area. Once airborne, circle the course counterclockwise. After completing a minimum of 10 laps, land in the proper area and taxi back. In each heat, there is a wide range of years represented, but the object is not to get around the course first. Pilots attempt to fly in a similar manner as the prototype while maintaining an accurate scale speed. It's Saturday morning and the spectators have filled the area behind the beach. Everything is ready for the first Schneider Cup reenactment to begin. Opening ceremonies provided by the RC Aero Show Team Flyers.
Okay, it's showtime now, ladies and gentlemen.
This is a Mach-E M33. Raced in 1925, its top recorded speed in that race was 168.4 miles per hour. This is Bill Curry's entry. It's a 1/4 scale model built from Bill's own plans. The plane is powered with a Super Tiger 3000. The basic construction materials are balsa, foam, and fiberglass. This is an event with great historical significance. Many people find pleasure in the history of aircraft. The visitors to the first Schneider Cup reenactment watch these modern antiques recreate a time in aviation history not often remembered. If you love old airplanes, just walking along the beach amongst these reproductions is a sublime experience. This Curtiss R3C2 is Kenneth Merrill's entry. It was built by Larry Tate, Bob Martin, Larry Lysick, and John Hanks. It was raced in 1925 by Jimmy Doolittle, finishing with a speed of 233.6 miles per hour. This 1/3 scale model is powered with a Sachs-Dolmer 3.7 engine and weighs 39 pounds. This is Ray Hall and Larry Botsford's entry, the 1929 S5 Supermarine. Ray and Harry co-built the Supermarine from their own plans. It's powered with the G62 engine and weighs 43 pounds. In 1925, the S5 won the Schneider Cup in Italy. This Supermarine is one of 7 entered at this year's Schneider Cup event. This is the formidable Mach-E MC-72. Though this plane never competed in the Schneider Cup race, it did set and still holds the world speed record for piston-driven seaplanes. The model was built and flown by Team Mach-E, a group of fine model builders from Canyon Lake, California. Building materials were balsa, spruce, foam, and fiberglass. Powered with a Sachs-Dolmer, it weighs 37 pounds. If the Italians had finished this plane in time for the race in 1931, could they have had an effect on the outcome of the 13th and final Schneider Cup race? Though we will never know the answer to that question, one can easily imagine an all-out race between equally scaled models, the beautiful and aerodynamic Supermarine and the ultra-fast Mach-E MC-72.
First of all these airplanes were judged statically. That is, they were on display. The judges looked at the quality of the airplane, which means workmanship, authenticity, adherence to scale, and they have to prove all these points. And here's the document to show that the wing was this shape. Here's more documentation to show that the proper colors. Here's some more documentation to show that it did have it was an airplane that did have floats. So all these requirements have to be met by the model builder. It's his responsibility to tell the judges, to convince the judges that my airplane is the best one here. I want as high a score as I can get. The airplane on my left is the Curtiss Racer. That was flown by Jimmy Doolittle. The fellow that built that airplane did a lot of research. In fact, there was a team of 5 people that worked together, built the airplane according to plans obtained from the Curtiss company. The one on my right is the Deperdussin, which is also an old racer, raced in 1913 versus his later version of Jimmy Doolittle's airplane. Again, this airplane has to have authentic replication of the real airplane. If you count the wires, there's something like 50 wires holding that thing together. They call it bird cage, because you put a bird in there, it can't get out. The whole idea is to reinforce the airplane to make it flyable. Flying points, we evaluated how he handled the airplane on the water, how he taxied, how he landed, how he flew the course. In other words, there was a minimum and maximum flight altitude to make it look scale. There was also, it also had to fly the scale speed. It had to adhere to the course. If he took off and went out of the course area, we downgraded him for it. There were 3 judges which totaled the score up and divided by 3. That was an average that he flew. They didn't compete against each other on the flight. It was just a matter of replicating the flight conditions and the flight speeds.
While a festival-like atmosphere prevailed behind the beach, in the pit area, the mood was more serious as flight crews made final adjustments for the second heat. This is Cliff Adams' Supermarine S6B. Cliff used 4 OS-120 4-stroke cylinders and built a custom crankcase and crankshaft to create a 6 cubic inch 8 horsepower engine. Cliff's aircraft is built up of balsa and plywood with fiberglass covering. Total flying weight 35 pounds. This is the Supermarine that flew unopposed in 1931, making Britain the permanent home of the Schneider Cup trophy. In the early years of the Schneider Cup race, planes were primarily converted land planes. This is Roy Slater's 1914 Sopwith tabloid. Construction materials are balsa, bass, and hardwood. The floats are foam covered with fiberglass. Roy has used the Zenoa G38 for power. Piloting the tabloid is Frank Scholing.
Make way for a big old whale with 6 tails.
Another Sopwith tabloid was entered by the Quarter Scale Association of America. Pilot for the 1/3 scale tabloid is Dave Wilms. This was a collaborative project. Materials are balsa, foam, plywood, lithoplate, and Solartex, using Nick Zeroli plans blown up to a 103-inch wingspan. Let's watch highlights from the first day of flight realism.
Powered by
The Desert Hawks RC Club not only hosted the first Schneider Cup reenactment, but simultaneously hosted the 4th annual London Bridge Seaplane Classic. This turned into quite a surprise for the club when Friday morning there were pilots with 200 planes lining up for registration. 45 pilots had pre-registered.
Great weather, fantastic panorama. We're going to have a good time.
The Hughes Spruce Goose was built by Doug Wilsman from Ramona, California. Doug has mounted 8 OS-25 ABC engines on his scratch-built Goose.
Definitely a big bird. Coming in now for a nice smooth landing. Touchdown.
Mike Key Johnson III from Calistoga, California, brought this very rare GB-R1 on floats. It's scratch-built and has a 90-inch wingspan. Power supplied by a 3.7 Zenoa. Sunday, the final day of competition, was just another perfect day in paradise. This Avro 539 was built and entered by Ralph Burton. He built the Avro from scaled-up 5-view drawings by James Tyndall. Ralph used plywood, pine, and balsa for the major building materials. This 30-pound plane is powered with a Zenoa G62. Because of problems with the scale aileron linkages, this plane did not fly. In 1919, when this plane raced for the Cup, its official recorded speed was 77.5 miles per hour. There was one electric racer entered by Bill Young, a Mach-E M33 powered by an Astroflight Cobalt engine. Robert Heithkamp won the first annual Schneider Cup reenactment with his fantastic Supermarine S5. Robert is from Juneau, Alaska. Helping him with the construction of the Supermarine was Jim Wilder and Lou Bonnet. Second place was captured by Kenneth Bunt with his Supermarine S6B. Ken Merrill finished third with the Curtiss R3C2. Bill Curry took fourth place flying the Mach-E M33. Team Mach-E finished in fifth place with the Mach-E MC72. After 60 years of slumber, history's greatest speed seekers are back in the air. On November 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, 1990, within sight of this old London bridge, a great spectacle of the air will take place. The second annual Schneider Cup reenactment in sunny Lake Havasu, Arizona. This is Mark Frankel's 1/6 scale Learjet 35. Mark's effort with this subject has been recognized in many model magazines. If you have ever had the opportunity to see Mark's Learjet at any of the scale contests, you already know why the model draws so much attention. The classic lines of the Learjet create a beautiful and unique model subject. Unique because most ducted fan jet modelers opt for military subjects. Mark began with the Learjet project in the mid-70s, and after 90% of completing a built-up version, he realized that the current ducted fan technology was going to give him a marginal flying machine. Frustrated, Mark put the Learjet project aside. By 1984, ducted fan equipment had improved to a point encouraging Mark to begin the project again, this time working with a fiberglass fuselage and foam core wings. That model was lost on its third flight due to engine trouble. Convinced that the design was sound, Mark pressed on and built another Learjet model using the same molds, but changed to the Rossi 65 engines and Dynamax fan units. That second version of the Learjet won several trophies in static scale. However, on the first flight he discovered that he had an extremely tail-heavy plane. That Learjet was also lost in a dramatic crash. It turned out the lead pellets used for nose weight had been escaping each time the plane was moved, so that by flight time it was missing 1/3 of its nose weight. Undaunted, Mark built another Learjet starting with a new set of molds for the fuselage, thus making final corrections in the geometry of the aircraft. With 3 years and many flights on the final model, it looks as though Mark's persistence has paid off. The documentation for this version of the Learjet was obtained from a jet base near Dallas, Texas, November 666, Romeo Bravo. This 1/6 scale model is 96 inches long with a wingspan of 83 inches and weighs 28 pounds. It's powered with two OS-65 engines using a special Mack muffler tune pipe. The radio Mark uses is a Futaba 8-channel PCM. The finish was achieved using automotive paint. DuPont lacquer was used for color and covered with a Ditzler clear polyurethane. The plane's wings are sheeted in balsa and covered with Dan Parsons 6/10-ounce cloth. One of the challenges in the Lear project was supplying fuel to the engines while keeping the fuel tanks close to the center of gravity. This was accomplished by using collector tanks or feeder tanks of 1 ounce inside the fuselage at the nacelle pylons. The main tanks are farther forward. This system allows the engines to run without pumps and has proven to be very reliable. If you are interested in building your own Learjet 35, plans are available from RCM Plan Service. Hyatt Tech Hobbies in Pennsylvania has available Mark's fiberglass fuselage nacelles and foam wing cores. We would like to thank Mark Frankel for supplying the video footage for this article.
Extend the antenna and turn it on. It's a real simple radio. It'll take you about 2 seconds to figure out how it works. At this point, your pilot is ready to fly. You're his caller. You come over here and you'll establish communication with the tower. Your call sign is the flight line that you're flying off of. Any questions on that? Okay, here we go. Flight line 3, ready for takeoff.
Flight line 3, hold up, we have takeoff on 2.
That's a roger.
Flight line 3, you're clear for takeoff. Pattern is right to left.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're up flying. Now we want to say we want to do a low-level maneuver from right to left. We're going to ask, we want to do a low-level maneuver from right to left. Do we know that we have to call such a maneuver? So we'll say 1/8 tower, this is flight line 3, would like to request a low-level pass.
Flight line 3, hold up.
Roger.
Flight line 3, make your low pass.
Coming around. Okay, with 5 minutes fuel reserve, it looks like I want to land. So at this point, I'm going to have to call my landing. 1/8 tower, this is flight line 3, request landing.
Flight line 3, go ahead and make your landing.
Thank you very much. Simple. This keeps the caller in the ball game. Everybody's going to be looking out for everybody else, and I think it adds a little realism, and we hope you guys will help cooperate with this and we can get this thing going. Any problems with this at all? Anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, back to you, Bob.
Air Force has been around for about 13 years, solely dedicated to the building and flying of radio control scale aircraft.
We've noticed a big turnout here. How many people do you think have shown up for this event?
This year we have 126 registered pilots, 189 registered aircraft.
Great, that's good. And how long has this event actually been going on? This is an annual event, I think.
This is a twice-a-year event. We do it in March and we do it in October. March being the bigger of the two events. We've been doing this for 13 years. It's an open invitation. Anyone in the United States, actually anyone in the world, would like to attend Phoenix and our fly-in.
There seems to be a lot of public support in town for the Model RC Club. You've got a beautiful runway out here. There's nice facilities. You've got power. And there's so much trouble nowadays with trying to establish and maintain flying sites. What's been your secret?
It's not really a secret. It's to work with John Q. Public. This is a public flying site. The only difference being that the Arizona Model Pilots Association, they are the current holder of this particular facility. They do the maintenance, they put the dollars into it. We work with the city, the state, the county, Parks and Recreation, and throughout Arizona right now we have 3 of these fine type flying sites. John Q. Public makes, and it plays a very important role in keeping it here.
Fantastic. Well, Tom, thank you very much, and congratulations on such a nice event.
Thank you guys for coming out and helping us out. We really appreciate the coverage.
Sets up, starts to throttle up, tail comes off the ground, captain comes off the ground, sucks up the gear, he's just waving at you folks. Look at the solder job on man. Again, as I was saying, if you have no... Boom chaka-laka-laka, boom chaka-laka. That's for you, Heidi. And sets it down for a beautiful landing out of the DC-3.
Nick Rivaldo's C-47 had the ability to drop 16 parachutes from the door. The airplane was powered by 2 Zenoa 638s with Zinger 1616 props. It had Robart retracts and weighed 48 pounds. scratch built from Nick Zeroli plans with 30 flights. It was an all balsa wood airplane with cloth-covered elevators and rudder. It took 2 years to build. The crash was a result of suspected radio problems.
Oh, it's one of Byron's P-51's been modified. I acquired it here last year. It's copied after one of the Reno racing planes, Dago Red. It flies real good. We brought it here for the 1/8th Air Force Fun Fly, and so far we had real good luck with it. Weighs 29 pounds and flies real good.
Real good. Do you have any problems in construction? Anything in particular that you had problems with?
Just the fiberglass cracking a little bit, you know, from people picking it up. Not picking it up in the right places, that's the only thing.
We noticed you got a, what appears to be a metal prop on there. It's not metal, but...
It's fiberglass, but it's treated so that with a coating on it, it makes it look like chrome. That's what we fly with.
Looks like the real thing.
That's the whole idea. Make it look just exactly like the real one.
Here we are looking at a beautiful scratch-built Stearman provided by one of the local club members. This F4 Phantom is Dorian Anderson's and is available through Jet Hangar Hobbies. Ron Shell is patiently working on starting his Byron F-16.
Brian O'Meara, you're on deck, line 4. Brian O'Meara, on deck, line 4.
All right, I'm Buzz Watson from Riverside, California. I'm a member of the Riverside Radio Control Model Club. And I brought my Ryan PT-16. This was an aircraft designed back in the around 1933-34, and it went into service for the U.S. Army in 1939-1940. And it was pilots were trained by civilian pilots. In other words, they were military, but they were trained by civilian pilots. And this Ryan was a SIG kit starting out, but it's been modified to scale as a Ryan PT-16.
Looks like we have a nice peep.
It's basic construction of balsa wood, sheeted fuselage, and the covering is a Dacron shrinkable covering. And the finish is mixed acrylic lacquer to the military code of colors. In other words, we have a fellow that mixes these paints to the exact military spec colors. This is chrome yellow, insignia red, white, and blue on the stars, and we use a Ditzler non-smudge silver for the assimilated aluminum, and then the plane is cleared for the gloss with a butyrate dope or any type of gloss finish you care to use. Plane is powered by a 91 Surpass engine. It weighs about 10¼ pounds, and it's brand new. We flew it a couple times yesterday, and it feels okay. There's a few little adjustments I got to make yet. The pilot that I have is unique. It was handmade. I ordered it from the United Kingdom or England, and it has a leather jacket and the white fur collar and the early 1940 type helmet, and very light, and it's 5th scale. And this plane is 5th scale size. It's 72-inch wingspan. It's one of my favorite aircraft. Ever since I was a youngster, I've always enjoyed this airplane, and I've seen the actual ones fly, and so I decided I'd like to build one. It does have a kind of a crazy characteristic on landing with that narrow gear, but if you stay at attention, it handles okay.
Sucks up the gear. That's a shame. I think it rolled over and died.
An unfortunate fact of life for all modelers, the P-38 with 2 Super Tiger 3000 engines is believed to have crashed due to engine failure of the right engine. Gene Barton of Garden Cove, California, understandably wasn't real happy about the results of this flight.
Spectators, please don't run up on the crash.
Bob Moser's Newport 17, a Proctor kit, had a challenge getting off the ground. Steve Cantrell smoothly lands his Viper Avenger.
As the Viper sets down for a nice landing.
This is Jim Whitney's Byron F-15, flown by Charlie Beverson and built by Larry Sheffield.
Sets it on the deck and blows a wheel. The airplane is nice and safe and it's home.
I like jets. Yes.
This year's 1/8 scale Fun Fly ended with a gala social event with participants and organizers having a fun time late into the evening. The 1/8 scale Air Force looks forward to many more years of this annual fun gathering. In closing, we want you to appreciate this view of Dennis Crook's majestic yellow SR-71 Prototype B with OS-77 engines and Tom Cook's Dynamax fans. Thousands of people watched as 41 of the best model helicopter pilots in the world, representing 19 countries, showcased the FAI F-3C World Helicopter Championships at Fentress Naval Auxiliary Landing Field, located near Virginia Beach, Virginia. Contestants flew 1 round per day when each pilot was given 10 minutes to complete 9 predetermined maneuvers. During the competition, the wind averaged 10 to 17 miles per hour. If you have ever flown a helicopter, you know how winds of that force can make controlled maneuvering very interesting. Each participating country sent 3 pilots, 3 callers, and 1 team manager. An exception was the Japanese team, which sent 3 additional people to assist in keeping the pilots and their machines in top form. This world-class competition demonstrated that organization and preparation were the key factors in determining the overall winners of the competition. The Japanese team came very prepared for this event with a month of concentrated practice in windy Hawaii. Each pilot also brought identical aircraft for backup. Their teamwork, organization, and discipline were exemplary. With heavy backing from major manufacturers, the team was allowed the luxury of concentrating on flying and maintaining their helicopters. While on the other extreme, the British team members had to finance their own airfare, hotel, and food from money earned outside of the hobby. Throughout the competition, nerves were stressed while the pilots were required to perform precise and delicate maneuvers to earn the highest number of points. This created an excellent base for a sense of camaraderie and showmanship while off the competition field and at the practice field. You will have a chance to see throughout this program the best pilots in the world cutting loose and performing the most amazing aerobatics.
This is Mr. Dobashi, who is the last year's Japanese national champion. And also, this is his equipment. One unique feature that Mr. Dobashi explained earlier is his very sleek fuselage, and also his rotor blade with weight inside. This rotor has very heavy weight located in the tip of the wing, which results a very stable hovering and also very good high-speed maneuvers. This body is named Black Shark. The concept on the design behind it is very narrow cross-section that will eliminate the velocity change against and also following winds. So that is basic concept to it, but as you can see, it's very, very sleek, very slippery shape it has. It's what he's using inside of this fantastic fuselage is Hirobo's SST Eagle. I understand it's just off the box. I wish I can do that.
Apparently, there are many people that wish they could take a helicopter straight from the box and fly it to become the grand champion in the world, as Yukihiro Dobashi has done. At the age of 20, he placed first in the scoring. Second place went to Dobashi's teammate Kazuyuki Sensui. An American, Curtis Youngblood, placed third, and the U.S. team came in second in the team competition. Robert Gorham finished fifth, Tim Skinard ninth, and Tom Dooley came in 12th. The FAI F3C Championships brought teams from all over the world. The exchange of information on flying techniques and equipment modifications of the competitors from Germany, Austria, Italy, Luxembourg, France, Switzerland, Australia, and a dozen other countries is unparalleled. Truly, a gathering of talent like this is a definite plus for the growth of the sport. This wraps up this presentation of the World Championships competition in Virginia. The next one will be held in 1991 in Italy.
Well, flying in cold weather, number one is prepare yourself. Warm clothes, especially warm boots, warm socks, that sort of thing. Prepare your body. I would have to say stay away from the alcohol because that does tend to dull you and you will get colder. But the biggest thing with the airplanes is to be sure, number one, that the airplane is prepared. Most important part, I guess, electrically in the aircraft is that you check it in cold weather. See that the servos don't become sluggish when it's real cold out. Batteries. Be sure the batteries have a very, very fresh charge in them. And if you normally make 4 or 5 flights on a set of batteries, I would say in the real cold weather, cut it to 2 to 3, or use an ESV, expanded scale voltmeter. In other words, a load test on the batteries to see how much is still there. The number of flights you can get on a winter's day, I would say half to 2/3 of what you'd normally do on a summer day because of battery capacity. Other points to look at is any of the plastic control rod parts, clevises, horns, that sort of thing. Do not try to change them when they're cold. They'll break because of the cold temperature. Pay particular attention to covering, that sort of thing. We fly both wheels and skis. Skis when the snow's too deep to shovel for a long enough runway. Wheels when we've got a short enough area or a long enough area, however you want to look at it, to get up and down safely. The skis, some of the guys build their own, some are commercially available. A point, if you plan on using skis, is to wax the skis. If you're in an area that has a lot of snow skiing like Colorado does, you can go get the same ski that they use on the snow skis, the same wax. In lieu of that, burn a candle, drip some on the ski, take your monocoat heat gun, heat up the ski to melt the wax in a rag and wipe it into it. And just leave a small film of that on there. That way the ski won't stick to the snow and you'll have a lot better results.
Matt, the problem I have is getting a cold engine started. Maybe you can give us some advice.
If you can, keep the engine or the aircraft inside a vehicle until just 5 to 10 minutes or so before you plan on flying it. That'll keep the engine crankcase temperature up. Electric starter, make sure your glow plug battery or your onboard glow driver is up to snuff. In other words, fully charged. You can try upping the nitro content a little bit, but we still go back to warm the engine up maybe a little bit with your hand or warm it up by running it through with the starter. Up the nitro. Once it's running, let it run for a couple of minutes before you ever pull the glow plug battery off of it. And that lets the engine come up to temperature, bring everything up to temperature. Then the engine more or less thinks it's on a warm day. The extra little bit of nitro, like if you usually run 5% or 10%, then go to 10 or 15. Again, this will keep the engine temperatures up. You'll tend to ice your carburetor less, but you may have to reset the low speed and high speed needles on it. But other than that, once it's started, once for the day, then you seem to be okay. It might help to have a buddy with you out there when you're flying, not just for a spotter, but let him fly it a little bit while you stick your hands in your pocket and get him warm enough to land.
Right. That sounds like a fantastic suggestion.
I can't fly with gloves. I know of very few people that can fly and still have a feel with gloves, so you'll minimize your flights. You won't have 15-minute flights, especially if it's really cold. It'll be 4 or 5-minute flight.
Working in association with Aviation Expo, RC Video Magazine has recently released a special edition of this incredible event. This complete entertainment program contains an all-new Striking Back, including the amazing atomic bomb reenactment,